I, 45 male, have a son, Logan, 21 male, and daughter, Emily, 22 female. My ex consistently fought for custody, and she won. Logan and I were very close, but Emily wanted nothing to do with me. I did purchase Logan and Emily their first car when they turned 18. Logan still drives the car today. Emily ended up selling the car after a year and used the money for college. My ex passed away last year, and Logan moved in with me. Emily moved in with her current boyfriend and has been firm on not wanting me in her life. Her boyfriend got into an accident recently, and Emily reached out to me asking if I could help her with purchasing a car. I did some research and sent her some cars that were for sale and decently priced. She reached back out saying that she wanted a brand new Tesla. I looked at the Tesla pricing and the model was over the amount I wanted to spend. I told her that I could not help with purchasing the Tesla, and she got angry, saying that her boyfriend wanted the car, and she didn't have the money. I again told her that I would be willing to help her purchase another car that was in the budget. She went back to not contacting me. Am I the a-hole for not buying my daughter's boyfriend a car? This is really your question. You owe neither her nor her boyfriend, especially not her boyfriend, a car. You did it once, and she made her perfectly reasonable, honestly, choices. You don't exist just to be her Mrs. Moneypenny. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. It really sucks that she only wanted to have contact with you in order to try and get something from you. It's extremely generous of you to even offer to help her boyfriend out like that. Not the a-hole. Why is it your responsibility to buy a car for her boyfriend? A human being not even related to you, and dating someone who doesn't even speak to you. Even if it's not a brand new Tesla, you shouldn't spend a dime on him. Even if the car's for her, you still don't have to purchase it for her, and she should be grateful for anything you're willing to gift her. Also, she made it clear that she didn't want you in her life. I'm sure you think doing this would help crack the door open to her life and have a relationship with her. But you really need to put your foot down and tell her this or nothing. She will grow up. I'm divorced. My ex and I have a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old who we co-parent amicably. Weeks here in the school district, weekends, holidays at his new place. When we got married, we shared similar financial goals in terms of saving and spending. Pretty standard stuff that we took vacations and made indulgences occasionally, but saved for the basics like emergencies, college payments, and retirement. A while ago, he got remarried to a woman whose philosophy is, I'm quoting here, spend it if you've got it because you can't take it with you. When we initially divorced, I didn't request any alimony because our spending and saving goals were identical, and he was caring for them for plenty enough time. Any extra money he sent my way would just get saved up anyways, which at the time is what he was doing with it. Now he's buying sports cars, new computers, timeshare properties, all kinds of lavish stuff that he could only afford if he didn't have kids. His second wife has older kids, 21, 26, and is essentially of the mindset that they're on their own after 18, and why should she be saving for their lives when they can work? He is no longer making contributions to the college fund, and has blown through a good portion of the savings money we set aside for the kids. I work, but he makes significantly more, as I took time off after each birth to care for the children, which set me back quite a bit in terms of advancement. This significantly impacts what we'll be able to pass down to our children in the long run after we die, and in the short run, it's already impacted daily life. Our 14-year-old qualified for a private STEM high school, but cannot attend because her dad cannot make the payments. When she asked why she wouldn't be attending the school, I told her that her dad couldn't make his half of the payment, and it was too much for me to cover independently. She said that did not make sense, because she knows he has a more high-powered job and nicer material goods than I do. So I told her, in an age-appropriate manner, that he'd chosen to spend the money elsewhere. My ex is calling me the a-hole for telling her this, saying I should have made something up or told her to ask him about it. On the one hand, I really don't feel comfortable lying to my daughter about matters that directly concern her. On the other, I feel like an a-hole for saying anything that gets in between their relationship. Am I the a-hole for telling her the real circumstances behind not attending the school? Not the a-hole. I might have a different judgment if she were younger, but at 14, she's old enough to be told and understand the truth. You certainly should not have made something up, or given him the opportunity to make something up. Not the a-hole. But you would be the a-hole if you don't take this man to court to protect your daughter's future. He has a responsibility to her, and he didn't get it in writing during the divorce because at the time, he was being responsible and doing the right things. Now he's not doing the right thing, and you need to get the courts involved so they will order him to pay for her schooling and to contribute to her college fund. She should not have to suffer because he's decided buying shiny things for his new wife is more important than his daughter's future. Not the a-hole. He wants the 14-year-old to be an adult in this situation, instead of being the adult himself. Too bad if he doesn't like the truth. I would also look into blocking him from the educational account before he completely drains it. My grandparents were extremely rich. They sent their 3 kids to expensive boarding schools growing up and paid for all their schooling. They had a huge house and lived very lavishly. They eventually retired and bought another very expensive house in a different state to go for the summer. My grandfather passed a little while ago, and he had dementia. He was in charge of all my grandparents' finances, even when he had dementia. My grandma never saw a problem with this. Now my grandmother isn't doing that well financially. She's trying to sell her summer home, and it's really not working. And she also got messed up financially from her husband taking care of everything. It's just pretty much a mess, but she still has her house where we live most of the time, and enough money to live. My grandmother has always told our family how lazy poor people are, and if they simply worked harder, they'd be fine. It was really awkward when my brother's girlfriend came over and my grandma kind of berated her for being poor. My dad asked my brother's girlfriend how her family was doing, and she just answered it's a bit hard financially and that her mom's hours are getting cut. She lives with a single mom who works 3 jobs and barely makes $30K a year. My grandma basically told her mom should just work harder and pulled herself up from her bootstraps if she wanted to stop making $30K. My brother's girlfriend just kind of said how 3 jobs is already a lot of work and physically demanding for her and stuff. And my grandma just yelled at her for making excuses, and went on to say how privileged she is for going to college for free because she's poor, and stuff like that. It was really difficult to watch. My grandmother recently was lamenting over her financial troubles, and was saying how terrible everything is for her, and I told her to just pull herself up from her bootstraps. She got really mad at me, and said how dare I make fun of her during her weakest time in her life. My mom defended her, saying what I said was cruel to kick her while she's already down. She wants me to formulate an apology to her in written form by tonight. But I honestly don't think what I said was that bad. Not the a-hole. Your grandma deserved to be called out for being crappy. She's lived a life of privilege, and clearly hasn't considered how other people may not benefit from the same privileges she has. Not the a-hole. I know a lot of people will disagree with me about this because, respect to elders, blah blah. But I don't see how it can be disrespectful to repeat the words that person has spoken right back to them. Shows that you were listening to them and paying attention to what they were saying. I'm sorry I hurt your feelings by repeating the words you said to brother's girlfriend. Not the a-hole. Offer to apologize to your grandmother once she offers one to your brother's girlfriend. Your apology will match hers in sincerity and tone. I, 29 female, did a 23andMe DNA test at the end of 2018, start of 2019, as I was interested in the ethnicity and health reports. I also uploaded the results to a genealogy site, thinking it might be interesting to connect with distant unknown relatives. This week I received a message from someone on the genealogy site, a woman, Sue, 50s female, who shared 25% DNA with me, making her either my half-sister or my aunt. The ages are impossible for her to be my half-sister, so she must be my aunt. In various ways, I've ruled out that Sue is a sister of one of my parents who was put up for adoption. And both my parents have really strong family resemblances with their siblings, so they're clearly not adopted. And I look a lot like my mom when she was younger, so I strongly doubt I'm adopted. That leaves the possibility that Sue's brother, Chris, is my biological father. This theory is lent credence by the fact that he and my mom not only lived in the same city, but worked for the same company around the time I was conceived. My parents had been married for 3 years before I was born, so if this theory is true, then I was likely conceived through cheating or an affair, though I'm aware there's also the possibility it was a non-consensual encounter. I've arranged to see my mom next week, and am planning to present her with the facts and what seems like the most likely explanation, and give her the opportunity to explain what happened. Sue is also going to speak to Chris to see if he knew my mom. After these conversations have happened, I don't necessarily plan to tell my dad or siblings. My dad is still my dad, whether or not we're biologically related. So the only relationship that would be affected by this coming out is the relationship between my parents. This is something that happened 30 years ago, and my parents' marriage has survived this long, so clearly they're better together than apart. I am content for this to be a family secret that stays between my mom and me. I will admit my feelings about this might change depending on whether it was a one-off encounter or an extended affair. I've only shared this situation with my husband. He has discussed it with some work colleagues. He received the message through his genealogy website account when he was at work, and our initial theory was that Sue was a sibling of one of my parents, so it didn't seem inappropriate to share. They are split, with half thinking I would be the a-hole if I don't tell my dad, since he has the right to know, and cheating is wrong. The other half think the same as me. This seems like a mistake that my mom made 30 years ago. Why risk ruining an otherwise happy marriage for it? So would I be the a-hole if I didn't tell my dad that he's not my biological father? You would be the a-hole if you said something now, because you don't even know what happened. Talk to your mom first. What if it was a non-consensual, for instance? Or what if he already knows and you're reopening old wounds? Get more information before you do anything. I'm torn, because on the one hand, you're not the a-hole, because your dad doesn't need to know. He already loves you, and this might put a strain on your relationship. But, on the other hand, You're the a-hole. Because he raised you, and has the right to know that the person he raised was not his daughter. Not the a-hole. You're just looking out for him. Definitely ask your mom and possibly get a DNA sample from your dad and the possible bio-dad, just to prove your suspicions. After that, I would give your mom a chance to come clean, and if she doesn't, then it's your turn. Your dad has a right to know. Sorry guys, no update. I, 35 female, met my husband, R, 35 male, about 12 years ago. He was junior engineer at the time, but he was perceptive, considerate, funny, and just overall my ideal guy. The only thing I didn't like was the way he and his brother, P, now 38 male, interacted. P loves to talk about how successful he and his friends are, and undermines R's accomplishments, as, that's good for your age. R overlooks it because he wants to be supportive of his brother. At the time, I wanted to say something about P's arrogance, since not only was I not impressed by his income, it's not a secret that P is notably uglier, inside and out, than his younger brother. I didn't because R preferred I let it be. P continues to do this for the next 12 years. I've tried hinting that we're all doing well and this is an awkward topic, but P brushed it off with patronizing sayings like, "You'll get there." Fast forward to now, we're all married with children. 2 weeks ago, P, wife and son dropped by for a visit since P was on a business trip. Within a couple hours, P starts bragging about his recent raise. He's finally broken X amount a year, and his wife will be going for a promotion that will land her around X amount a year. R was just as supportive as he usually is, but then P goes, "You'll get there eventually." Our son, who was playing nearby with P's son, stopped and asked if that's a lot. P's son said, "Yeah, duh," and I said, "No." P then laughed and told me not to set too high of an expectation for my children. So, and this is where I might have been the a-hole, I laughed and said, "If you must know, X amount of money is what we paid in taxes last year." P and his wife went silent, and R tried to change the subject. Then P suggested that we should get a new accountant because that's way too much for taxes. I lost my patience and asked him how much he thought our job titles should pay in taxes, or if he was still under the impression that his little brother is an entry-level engineer. Admittedly, it was not my best moment, but I really disliked him for trying to put down my husband in front of my son. After they left, I got a text from P about how I owe him an apology for embarrassing him in front of his son. I told him I will not, but I'm happy to never speak of income again if he will stop bringing it up in front of my son. R agrees with me, but asks as a favor to let P talk in the future, as long as it's not in front of the kids. He says his brother has some self-esteem issues, and if it makes P feel better to pretend he's more successful than R's okay with it. I really don't see the need to keep babysitting an almost 40-year-old man's ego, and frankly, I don't want him anywhere near my son. But as I don't have a sibling with a self-esteem issue, I don't know if I'm overreacting. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Husband is going to chat with his brother about 1. Not being kids anymore, and 2. Setting good examples for our sons. Also, for the folks wondering, it seems that the reason for their dynamic is growing up. P had some social adjustment issues, so their mom had asked R to look after his brother. So despite being the younger brother, apparently R just got in the habit of looking after P. Odd, but given mother-in-law is the least confrontational person I've met, not too surprising. Finally, for the folks who asked, no, we, husband, P and wife, are middle class, upper middle class, not rich by our city standards. Some coastal cities are just really expensive. A lot of 200K plus families here are living paycheck to paycheck. Not the a-hole at all. It sounds like brother-in-law is getting worse over time, and that's probably because no one shut down his behavior before. Better late than never. You shut that stuff down. Don't apologize, and if he doesn't see the problems with his behavior, tell him not to worry. He'll get there eventually. Not the a-hole. You took his crap for long enough, then finally called him out on it. That's what he gets for being patronizing about someone else's income without actually knowing what it is. He set himself up for this embarrassment over a period of many years. This is his just desserts. Babysitting his ego. Well phrased. And you're right. Also, the gall on P for demanding an apology for belittling him in front of his son, while him doing the same to R in the presence of your child is seemingly okay. Also, R is probably an amazing guy, but he might also have self-esteem issues if he lets his brother bulldoze him like that. I advise the both of you to look into this. I couldn't give a flying duck about P's problems with his self-image. He's an a-hole, and you're not the a-hole for finally calling him out on his BS. Tell him he's already got your apology, and it's presently keeping his ego company, in his rectum.